Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear me loud and clear? Hopefully audio's good, video's good.
Coach,
What's going on, Coach Paul?
hey, how you doing, Coach Jay? I can hear you loud and clear.
Sounds good to me. Looks good as well. Sounds good from Coach Hoop. Thank you for the confirmations. Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer Hour Market Recap. If this is your first time here, I am Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I am Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach for a little over a year now. I've been trading for about 12 years now, and been trading in the futures markets for about five. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been involved with TopStep for the better part of 15 months now. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades since I was 18 years old. Been I've started on the floor and transitioned to the screen in 2002, um, where I have had to make a lot of adjustments, and I'm here to help those of you who are new or making an adjustment, and working with Coach Jay. I also learn. So welcome, and I hope we can do something for you today.
Absolutely. So the way we start every segment is by looking at the top percentage movers on the day. There are about 32 markets, I believe there are, 34 maybe, markets that we can trade at Top Step. So there is opportunity in a bunch of different places. To the downside, we have the Nikkei down 1.14%. Uh, s- this one is always getting me. I got to take this out of here. Soybean meal down 0.85%, the Nikkei down 1.14%, and nat gas down 1.72% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. You might be wondering why I'm ignoring this other E-mini nat gas contract. It's because it doesn't trade enough volume to actually be considered.
Yeah.
So I need to remove that off the watch list, and we'll just watch us do this live. I'm going to take you out of there and save this. So now let's talk about the contracts that actually trade volume. To the upside,
Yeah.
we have soybean oil up 3.73%, copper up 4.11%, and silver up 4.68% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. The metals are having a run again, being
Yeah,
led by gold.
that we talked about that yesterday, and boy, one thing it didn't do today, make the all-time high and then collapsed 15, $20. It just
Yep,
kept on running.
just kept going. Just kept going. I see we got some new viewers in the chat. If you're new, if this is your first time to at the buzzer, let us know in the chat. Let us know where you're from. See, we got uh, nice name there. From Argentina. Thank you for joining us. Anyone else new here, let us know where you're from. Thank you for joining us if this is your first time here. Uh, our big four, we got crude oil up 1.46%, gold up 1.35%, again making a new all-time high. The Nasdaq up 0.52%, and the S&P's up 0.26%, and that rounds out our big four. As far as news goes today, we did have some news on the calendar. The big one being a consumer confidence number, which came in at the lowest value, Coach, and I heard this on Topstep TV, lowest value in the last 3 years for this consumer
I
confidence number, which goes to show
thought
me
it was 4.
was it 4 years?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, there you go. Uh, a lack of confidence from consumers. What does that mean for the market? The market still ended up higher, so maybe bad news is good news. But lack of confidence there. Also know we have a bunch of Fed speakers this week. I'm not truly keeping tabs on what it is that they're saying. We know we have Powell coming up later in the week, and that will be the one that everyone's paying attention to. And not sure that we're going to get much out of what we've already heard out of the Fed. But good to know when those numbers are happening. Excuse me. Just for potential volatility in the markets.
Coach, that's a great statement. Like today, when that consumer confidence number came out, It created some volatility and some and a push downward, which I think was larger than expected. So if you're day trading, and especially if you're new, um, uh, Coach Eddie will let you know when there's a
Yep.
number coming out.
5 minute
My
warning.
advice is to flatten out.
5 minute warning. So we got some new viewers from Chicago, Richmond, Virginia, El Paso, Texas, Arizona. Yeah, when I get a haircut, I don't wear a hat. Ricardo from Jamaica. We got Spain here, Alabama, New York City, Scottsdale, Arizona, another Spain, Mesa, Arizona. A lot of Arizona in the chat. Good to see. Thank you everyone for joining. If you do have any questions, please put them in the chat. Our wonderful mod Andrew is going to filter the questions and send them to us, and hopefully we can answer as many as possible. Coach, I'm already on gold. Uh, it was probably the best market of the day, so let's just start here.
It was the star. Like, it
The
was a
star.
gold star.
The star of the day. We've been talking about gold being above the 200 moving average on the 30-minute. That's the white line that you see here. And then let me take some of these drawings off. Then we have the purple line, which is the 50 moving average, and the yellow, which is the 20 moving average. Shorter time frame moving average above the medium time frame, which is above the longer time frame, which simply tells us that we are in an uptrend. You don't need the moving averages to see it, but it's a clearer distinction that we are. This market is just rallying, and we could see 2,700 before you close your eyes to go to sleep at night. Um,
Could be tonight.
this thing is just going. And yes, a lot of people have said I look like Russell Westbrook. He's actually my cousin.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go. Can you play like him?
Not at all.
If you could, you'd be in the NBA.
Right. Uh, So here is the Globex 30-minute opening range, coach. Uh, the first
Yeah,
30 minutes of the market open. We're going to put a VWAP on there. Shout out to Brian Shannon, who was on Topstep TV today. If you didn't watch that segment and you're a VWAP trader, or if you're not, I would highly suggest looking at it. Um, I personally am biased to it because I use VWAP in all of my analysis, but just a really great segment there. Uh,
Coach, I would
mhm.
second that. Um, in my long career, I've, if you're new, you haven't heard this before, I've always struggled with volume. Working with Coach Jay has helped me a lot, but VWAP to me is the greatest tool since charts. Do yourself a favor, watch that. What I was really impressed with different ways to use VWAP. It's a great tool. Um, and I think it can enhance anyone's trading.
For sure. I would agree with that wholeheartedly, coach. So we have anchored view up from the session
From
open.
last night's
Last night's open, it left the range pretty early, but it was choppy overnight. Pretty choppy overnight. But the one thing I'm seeing here, coach, is that it stayed above that range.
Yes, it did. My pivot for gold was 26.49. Um,
Coach, what's that pivot based on?
and the pivot is based on the yesterday's high, low, and close. You add those together and divide by 3. A little different than a 50% correction, but it gives you a balance, or a pivot that is a little more dynamic.
Hmm.
I use it to get an idea of the direction if it's holding. And what I'll use is VWAP with that pivot. As I've told you, I only looked one side of the market. In gold, I'm only looking to buy it. Last night it took off and it went to the first resistance, which is using the pivot numbers. I don't want to go into the formula now, but because I could gloss you over with math.
Yeah.
Um,
Give us the cliff notes.
this, the out yeah, the output was 2663 was the first level of resistance,
Nice.
and we got right to that. And coach, you showed me this too. When that hit that, it was, I think, London. it was
Correct.
far away from VWAP. And we've been talking about this. VWAP, so the buying went to the first resistance, and and you know, I think for a day trade, I love getting from the pivot to the first resistance or vice versa for a great
It's a nice
day
move.
trade.
It's a nice move.
It's a
It's a
nice move.
15 point move. If you can take, anywhere from 40 to 70% of that, it's great.
Yeah. And that, and on a micro, that's 150, two micros, $300. I think, it was last year when we started this on
Hmm.
Discord, and we started getting people talking about trading micros.
Yep.
I know I hear all the time, God, the best thing that happened is I went to micros. I
Yep.
think um, in gold, it's a great contract to trade. You trade 2 or 3 micros, and it doesn't whipsaw to me as bad as equities, as we
Hmm.
witnessed today, and we'll go over that. But I think that was Europe came in, and it must have been a number. We had that break where did we go back to the opening range?
Hmm. Yep.
Um, what I noticed there on the half hour, we had that large volume spike on that break, and that held. But when we broke that high of that large volume on that big break, we never looked back. It's the half hour form of the J trade.
Yeah. What coach is talking about is this huge candle down here that sold us back off into the opening range. Closing above that, the high of that candle was 26.64, kind of right above Coach Paul's resistance 26.63, and then kind of taking off from there. And this is New York session time. This is 9:30 Central, where the market had already been open. Let's say you only sit down at your desk and trade once the New York session is open. The market had been open for an hour, and you still had great trade location for the rest of this run.
Yeah, that was quite a run. And we can also put a VWAP on that first half an hour of the New York session. Um, and that was the run.
Yep.
So there's many ways to slice no, I can't say cat,
Cake.
a mosquito. No one likes mosquitoes, okay?
Everyone likes
And
cake. Everyone likes cake.
everyone likes cake. It's a slice of cake. But I find that very helpful, since we're VWAP today, right there. And that was the biggest volume of the day, right? And that tells you something. I mean, just looking at that, if I wanted to sell it, what reason do I have? I'm swimming against the stream. Um, and that's usually doesn't work out. But great trade, loving gold, in a really good day there, and it was so smooth. I mean,
Yep.
it was um, and all-time highs, and finished, didn't back off.
Agreed.
Um,
We got a comment from Net Iconica, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but saying this mostly looks like random movement. I'm gonna disagree and say that this is even if going to say even if it is random movement, there are patterns in randomness, and that's what we want to try to focus on, right? Where do we know what is going to happen in the market at any given moment? We don't, right? So embracing some of that randomness and uncertainty is important, but when you can identify patterns in randomness, um, that's where a lot of opportunity is going to be.
yeah, and I would add to that, randomness. Yeah, it's all random, but finding a pattern is non-random. But flows become non-random, and it's much easier to define a non-random move such as this when you have VWAP, because once you put VWAP on, if you put it on that big sell, if you put it on the big volume, you're it doesn't mean you're not going you don't have risk. Don't ever understand me. Every trade you put on 100% of the time you have risk. Non-randomness is defining some pattern that you can take good risk. And that's what I define this as good risk because we had the DNA of a non-random flow.
Right. Uh, and I'll just ask, everyone who's been joining us since we started doing this on YouTube, it's been about a month now. This pattern right here that Coach Paul is talking about, I don't want to ignore the comment because it's a genuine one, right? Is this
It's very
pattern random, right? Where this price action, we don't know that this is going to happen, but the specific trade setup that we're talking about here, I don't think that is random at all. I would say that's the exact opposite. It's measured
yeah,
and
just
it's what I'm willing to put risk behind.
it's like a Jackson Pollock painting. Some
Right.
people can find it appears random, but underneath that, it was a non-random action,
Mhm.
and I found that hard to accept myself when a friend of mine's an artist, and then I saw it. I'm like, oh wow.
Right.
So yeah, there has to be random. But you're completely right. It's random entries, but finding a pattern that you can take good risk on, you can start entering the non-random um, execution. And that's how you get to be better trade. It's a great question.
Yep.
Uh,
I agree. Uh, all right. So 2,700 possibly tomorrow. It's what this looks like. I don't see gold slowing down really at all. Where we've had this pattern where we make all-time highs and then consolidate a little bit. We're still in the trending part of that pattern right now. Maybe 2,700 gives us a bit of resistance because it is a major psych number that we have not traded before. I'll be looking to see what the order books look like tomorrow at 2,700 to see whether or not we see some profit taking around here or if buyers are just going to continue to hold. If I had to go with an assumption, maybe some shorter time frame traders are going to take some profits around 2,700. But if someone's in a long gold and an investor in gold at this point, uh, I don't see much of a reason to get out. And of course, that can change. But this market is probably one of the strongest markets we're seeing right now.
oh, but by far, I love it. We have a question, and sorry to ask for the millionth time.
Hmm.
Well, it's a million and one. And by the way, keep asking if you don't understand something. That's what we're here for. Um, but how do I add anchored VWAP to my top step X chart? It's a great question.
Here we go. So on the left side of your charts, you have these drawing tools. One, two, three, four, five down is going to be forecasting and measurement tools. You're going to click on the right arrow there, and you have halfway down the menu, you have anchored VWAP. I'm going to click a star next to that to add it to my favorites. And now you see I have this little toolbar of drawings. These are all the things that I use all the time. Anchored VWAP is going to be the two candles with the line going through it. So I'm going to click there and then click on a candle that I want to anchor to, and that's it.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, it's one that used. it- I've used it just about every charting package,
Mhm.
and this is by far the easiest for VWAP. It's a great tool.
Yep. We got a question from Joe. Do we have an indicator for calculating the pivot and resistance and support? For Coach Paul's pivots, no. I know Coach uses a formula to do so, but you don't have to do the calculations for yourself. Coach Paul will. I think we need to do just a short segment one day about exactly what it is that you're calculating there. But Top Step Daily Levels. Uh, there is the link there. Coach Paul and I, and as well as Coach Ray, Coach Vince, Coach Hoop, Coach Jack, are providing levels to that site every day. We're doing a lot of the groundwork for you. And at some point, do we explain exactly what it is that we're looking for? Yes, but for maybe some newer traders, we're putting levels out there for where we think the market has the potential to respond to. Right? Not a suggestion to take a trade at any of these prices, but areas of opportunity where we see the market potentially trading to, and going from there.
Yeah, we'll have to mark that down. Maybe we'll spend some time just on the calculations.
for sure.
The idea, though, is with the pivot and the support and resistance is to add that to what you're already using. It gives to me, it gives me um, a price analysis that I can use with a volume analysis and a moving average analysis. You might find it helpful in a different way, and that's the beauty of trading. If we all traded the same way,
Marks will be a
we
flat line.
wouldn't have a market. We'd be at limit up or limit down every day.
Right. Uh, Gold's still moving a little bit after hours here. I'm not going to pay too much attention to that because we can't trade it, but very interesting market right now. We did get kind of extended from that 20 moving average on the 30-minute chart. Maybe we get a little bit of a pullback to there. But again, I'm not looking to short this market with anyone's money. Um, Not for a long
Boy,
time.
look at that break we had. Was that yesterday we had that break?
This no.
Was that volume that big?
This is the
Am I
FOMC.
seeing that right?
This is FOMC.
And that's the FOM, in there, it's already been done. VWAP to there is just,
Just left today.
yep,
So price volume
so,
is catching up to price.
yep. And that was a random move, right? I mean, the move itself was random. It was against the trend,
Hmm.
right? Got under the 200. Um, and that's a good place. I've used on a VWAP tool to start looking at. By the way, we just use the word VWAP. It's volume weighted average price, which is better than price alone. And
Agree with you. It is telling you where big participants, where most of the volume is in the markets. Uh, and right now, with price being above it, buyers are happy. And this VWAP trending to the upside, that means buyers are stepping in as well. Maybe a little bit extended from it if we're anchored from FOMC, and that is why I will be watching the reaction at 2700. Right, we have Coach. As far as ATRs go, this is a 30-minute chart. We are currently 10 ATRs away from the VWAP attached to FOMC. Uh, that may be a little extended.
yeah, it's not. It's not a great place to be establishing a long,
Hmm.
but you could if you bring it down to a smaller time frame and you want to take the risk.
Right.
Because at the bottom of the day, risk is relative to the size of your account.
And if you ask me about the moving average indicator I'm using here, it's moving average triple. Let's move on to the Nasdaq. That is where we had some house account trades today. And if we look at the Nasdaq again, Coach, in an uptrend, a seemingly reluctant uptrend, if you will, where it is still trending up, but last couple of days overlap to making a new high but pulling back. It's been a difficult market to trade, right? A lot of if you're one directional, a lot of opportunity on both sides. I personally love when markets are like that because we get a 200-point down move, which is basically a trend, and then a reversal of it the other way. But it's been difficult, right? And it's been a market where if you're not taking profits, you can get in trouble a little bit.
Boy, you said that it's struggling. It's like Sisyphus moving the rock up the mountainside. It, it's hard.
Yep.
We saw that today. It's Nasdaq too.
Hmm.
um, it seems to take everyone down over time.
Hundred
But
percent.
where'd we go? Right to the 200 bar moving average. We did not close below it, and the buyers let loose.
Correct.
What I found also on that big volume event, and that was big volume. So, we can look and go, well, of course I should have bought it. And it was a good sell off that opening. But
Yeah, I do
I,
want to get into
I,
that because
I,
we were in a house account trade. Go ahead.
yeah, let's do it. So
But
let's
yes,
start off with what the house account trading. And
correct.
it
And
was
then
up big money at one time.
Absolutely. So let's get into the house account trade first. Let me take my notes. What do I have here? So the first house account trade was actually a long, and let me we're going to go down to a 3 minute chart and we'll look at this. We know we did have a consumer confidence number out at 9 a.m. Central Time. So the house account was long prior to that, kind of trading this like a range. And if we look at the 3 minute opening range, the low of the range, 2109, the high of the range, 2155. If I attach a VWAP to that opening range, it did start to leave towards the downside, right? It's kind of sloping towards the downside. If we look at the market this way, where we don't know what's going to happen, not really much of a convinced move. And when I look at this, coach, I'm kind of hesitant to do anything. But if I am, I'm going maybe leaning towards the short side just with the angle of this VWAP. House count got got long 2099, and took profits on a trade that they saw, Rips was calling it out really well, that around that 2120 level, there were some sellers up there, some passive sell orders that was not letting price get above it. We can kind of see that in the angle of VWAP as well. Took the trade off for pretty much a scratch. What I really love about what they did was once they identified it was no longer a long trade, getting in short. Uh, we can see it here, VWAP leaving that range to the low, that angle kind of steepening, right, where we were 45 degrees and this is maybe 70 degrees. Uh, Hopefully my math teacher's not watching. Um, high school high school math teacher, I got the angles wrong. Uh,
And he's listening, or she.
right. So when that angle steepened, the team did get short right around 20,021, which is right around here. So, seeing some of this momentum, reaction to news, very good reminder of getting out of a position prior to news, because this candle could have gone either way. The team was long, so this would have been an immediate stop out on this. If you were short, maybe in hindsight, there's a case to say I could have just held on to it, but was kind of a dangerous trade to hold on to with this type of reaction. This candle, coach, is 70 points. And if they went 70 points in the opposite direction, how do you manage your risk?
Well, coach, right there when we settled under and VWAP was actually just that little when it left the range there, right
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
What was the average true range?
ATR was 17 points.
So to me, my risk is 34. Let's call it 40. And we've talked about this, the two
Hmm.
ATRs rounded off, and that's the risk I like to take. Is I don't under one. I don't want to take the trade. I don't want to take the risk. It's not worth it. But giving some breathing room. That's the way I define the risk. But go on. That's one way to look at it. Um,
Yeah, that's a
what
good
I
way,
want to
right?
say
Where if
against
you go ahead, coach.
or against new highs. Well, either way.
Right. So 34 points, you could have held into it. And that's a reasonable stop. That's a stop that you would have on, a normal trade to begin with. But the team got short here, 2021, had the direction of the market correct. Uh, I was agreeing with these shorts as well. Maybe a little bit in the hole, kind of near that 20,000, but held into it. Like you said, had a trade that was 16 grand in the profit. Really nice. I think there was a mistaken exit of the trade. I wanted to ask you about that, coach, because so they got out of the trade. I think MP had a bracket order, right? So they got out of the trade and got back in at 19,977. Back into the same trade. Uh, I actually didn't hate that idea, right? Where it was an accidental exit. Um, what it looks like when you're trading is your average moves down a whole lot. But if it's the same trade idea, I personally don't see it as such a bad thing. We had some traders in the chat saying it's a completely different trade now. How do you feel about that?
Well, I did. One of the things is when I find it a good idea if you have size to take some off to help
Right.
pad the exit.
Mhm.
Personally, but this is a tough trade, and you know what? I'm just gonna. I'm okay. I'm with Topstep. Okay,
Mhm.
so maybe you can call me a homer, but it takes a lot of guts to do this on live TV.
Yep.
Um, but so the only thing, at one point for me, I like to trade. I think once we made that low and broke out of the, um, is that a J trade there? Mm,
This one here. Which one are you which candle? This one or
yeah, the volume,
this one
yeah,
here?
off the
Yeah.
lows.
Yeah, so we
Um,
got potential
but
opportunity here, and there's one here as well. The way that trade was managed, accidentally got out, got back in at a lower average. But the way I read that is you just overall position, right? A lot of times, what will happen, traders will see, okay, they got back into this trade. They still agreed with the trade idea and thought there was more room down. So I want to talk a little bit about that accidental exit and then getting in at around the same price, right? Where they realized $16,000 of the trade and said, oh, wait, I accidentally got out, but I think there's more room in. I'm just going to get back in here. That doesn't change the overall trade. It changes the numbers on the screen. And that's why I think it's important not to pay attention to the P&L as it's ticking around. It's the same trade idea. So they got back in whether or not the market was going to bounce up and their average was at 20,021, or the new average on that position was down at 977. It's the same trade. It's the same trade, and I think traders are looking at it like, "Oh, hey, you locked in 16K. Why would you get back into it?" Because I agree with the trade idea still. And where they got back in, the market did drop another 20 points from there. And that's where, you were saying, Coach, maybe there was potential to get out of it, to scale out. And I want to go back to the 30-minute chart and the moving averages. And this is what you and I were talking about here, that 200 moving average.
yeah, and you know what? They didn't get in the trade with that.
Mhm.
But hindsight is the wisdom of fools. But
Right.
there's something to learn.
Right.
I say on those lows. By the way, Rips was 10 points away, and he wanted the out.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. He wanted
He's
41s.
get that order in,
Yep.
and you could see at that point. My only is like 10 points to me is a tick in the Nasdaq.
Mm.
That's where I'm, and I'm different. I want in, I use a market order. I
Yep.
want out, I go. Only because I've done this before. I've had a big winner, and I waited and waited to come to my number, and it didn't. And then I freeze. And I'm not saying they did that, but that's from my experience.
Right.
Like at that point, it's sometimes one of the ways to do it is go take half off.
Mhm.
Now, if I can take half off, I've I have some breathing, and we've talked about this. I have I have breathing room as far as related to the account. But I mean, and then by the way, it moved quickly.
That yes.
There was no, it was, and
It
that's why
moved
it's so
very
hard to
quick.
trade Nasdaq.
Yeah, I will admit, I was reading this trade. I was short the S&Ps, and I myself was looking at targets much lower. We did kind of hit yesterday's low that we made uh, in the overnight session yesterday. But I was looking at targets much lower. I think 19,880 was the monthly VWAP, and that's where I was looking at for a target. So I understand what the team was looking at as well. And again, they had a great read the entire way down. The market just turned very quickly, and everyone is going to manage trades differently. Maybe there was a case, and again, we're doing this in hindsight. It looks really good here, right? Where do you start to take some profits, maybe secure some? That's the only thing I would say I would do differently about that trade. But yeah, it was a great read, really great read, with size as well. And again, didn't really hit the daily loss limit on the account. Haven't done that yet. Uh, so still something to learn there, but I think the beginning part of that trade I was completely on board with. Uh, this is just what the Nasdaq can do. Turn on a dime. And I've been in this move a bunch of times before and looking like, what the hell just happened?
Um, yeah. So, one of the things too is, we're both basketball coaches, but
Mhm,
after every game, I don't even practice. I'm gonna get in a circle and then go, what did we learn?
mhm,
What do we need to improve on? What did we do well? And I was my trade, but just looking back is what can you do? Is from my experience, is like, okay, we were in a hole, we came back, we're up, take half off, put a stop in it unchanged,
yeah,
because and I'm not good at it, believe me. This day trading is not my strongest suit.
mm,
I prefer swing trading. I'm getting better at day trading. And those actions have to be done so fast.
right, yeah,
Uh,
and then add in doing it with a group, and coming to a group consensus on a trade. And it is
yeah,
very hard to do. And shout out to the team for taking the trade, showing the losses, right? Showing the wins as much as we show losses. I think it's really important and something that I think we'll all learn from. Um, but damn it, I wish that market dropped another 100 points because I was on board with it. I actually got stopped out on my ES trade for break even, where I'm looking for more room to the downside as well, and maybe could have taken some profits, but uh, I had an expectation, and expectations versus what the market is actually giving you. Uh, it's a question that you ask yourself all the time, right? Do you cut your trade early, cut half of the position? But it is what it is. But like you were saying, Coach, with the J trade, here's the volume. And what Coach is talking about is a volume exhaustion type move, right? Where we're getting high volume at the lows of this move. Two candles you can kind of frame out. Use your discretion. A lot of this is discretion as well. I had asked someone in the chat earlier about, why do they frame out certain candles as opposed to others? I know for myself, it's going to be that I'm going to, defer to the highest volume, but sometimes it just looks right, right? Sometimes it's just, hey, you know what? I think it's this candle instead of this one. So really use your discretion on that. But same idea when we get candle closes above both of these high volume, what I'm calling exhaustion candles, uh, that's when the market turned. That is when the
and
market turned.
look at that. It was relentless.
Yeah,
Because I go back to the half hour. Real quickly, we had a J trade right there
this one.
on the half hour basis. Because look what happened when we got over that high. That's when it just, which is hard to buy if you've just been short.
Right.
Um, and it was a vicious day.
Definitely was. It definitely was. So hopefully, if you traded the Nasdaq, you made it out alive. And if you're here in chat with
Oh,
us, you
you
did.
profited. Good job.
Oh yeah, if you were able to catch a profit on that, really nice. I love days like this in the Nasdaq because it presents opportunities on both sides. But you just got to be, constantly assessing what the market is telling you. But his Royal says hard to trust. I agree. I agree. We've seen a lot, even last week, with some of those sharp moves down, right? It looks like we're trending up slowly. We get a 60-point drop before the market continues to go. Uh, it feels like what the NASDAQ is doing is building momentum to make a new all time high. And the way it's doing it is by uh, chopping up retail prior to it, right? Where an institution wants to build a large position and they're just chopping everybody up to get their inventory. And then once they do, we'll see the market break out of this range and make new all time highs. So we're not far away. We are currently less than 5% off of an all time high in the Nasdaq.
Yeah. It doesn't do it in a straight line. I don't see a straight line there. Do you?
No,
It's an old Charlie Daniels song. Got there by way of Omaha. It's not. It's so. What have we learned? number one, pick your. I would say one of the things is have a stop in when you get in.
Hmm.
I've found that to me, it stops me from freezing. I'm only human.
Yep.
If you know, and when I know what my loss can be, I have a much better conviction to hold on. You know, because then we talked about this, and accept that risk when you get in,
Right.
before you get in, or don't take the trade. And then that's one of the lessons I think I would learn from that.
100%. Uh, Dolby did take a nice trade. Dolby in Power Hour with Rips and Andre did take a nice short, right around 2168, where we were kind of in this balance range. Got a short at 2168, and I think it was another good trade, right? The market is in this range. I know Dolby is looking like at a 5 minute chart. You can see the wicks on these candles. Quick short, we got the dump. The stop was set somewhere above 180. So what we were talking a little bit about yesterday is when you identify a range, setting the stop so far out of the range that it would have to break it in order to to stop you out. He could have set the stop tighter and got wicked out on a couple of these moves before the eventual flush that they got about 20 points on it. That could have been your one trade of the day, right? Identifying a range here, saying I'm buying the lows and selling the highs of it, seeing the market trade up to the high, shorting it, and waiting for that break or at least a trade back to the other side of the range. Um, on a one lot mini, that's a $400 trade. You could have skipped all of this and had a $400 day, or $40 day with a micro and be done with it. Uh,
Yeah, and boy, you know and we talked about this, and I'll bring it up again. You know, there's define your personality. All right, I'm terrible at range trades, or just where other people are really good at it, and defined by Dolby's trade there. I can't do those trades. I just, it doesn't fit my personality. But you know, we can all look at charts and see, all have a different opinion. What really counts is what you see, and you, which someone brought up. It all looks random, all
yep.
right? And what I could see is random, you might see it as non-random,
Hmm.
and that's how we have markets. So deciding, it took me a lot of money to decide that I'm no good at trading ranges.
Yeah,
It's not in
that's
my
randomness to me.
personality. It doesn't work for me. That's why I trade a bunch of different markets. But you might be. Dolby's really good at it. So are a lot of other people, and other
Mhm.
people like more breakouts. It doesn't. Neither is right or wrong. But if you define what your personality is, it's going to make it a lot easier to execute.
For sure. Let's go into the S&Ps real quick. Kind of the same story as almost the exact same story as the Nasdaq. So we're not going to spend too much time on this. The house account was trading the Nasdaq, so we focused there. But another bounce coach off that 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart, and let's just zoom out and we can see, right, once the market starts to trend, and we're calling trend the 20 moving average above the 50, above the 200, any tests of that 200 moving average are kind of short-lived for any shorts, right? This is FOMC day where we had a test of it, and biggest news of the year, right? Maybe a large reaction to it. The Fed's cutting rates. Where did the market respond? 200 moving average, because the market's in an uptrend. Where I think we've said it a couple times, but news expedites a move, and the market brought us back down to a technical level that, if we zoom out, when we're trending, holds, right? Here it is on, well, not too much of a trend here, where this happened pretty quick, but even these, quick kind of checks up towards the 200 moving average, still holding. Let's look at a trending market this way. Above the 200 moving average, starts to trend. Now, what we're seeing here are a couple more tests of that 200 moving average, right? Where we got an actual test of it here. when I see that, I kind of think maybe the move is slowing down a little bit, where we're not getting, those full extensions, but still grinding higher, right? Where the 20 has not turned, the 50 has not turned. And maybe we're just building momentum for the kind of blow off top move.
Coach, it's called, another word for that is coiling.
Hmm.
It's coiling. It's like there's going to be, I call it the beach ball effect.
Yeah,
You can
hold
push
it
that beach
underwater.
ball underwater, and when it loses control, it's either going to blow up in your face or it's going to break it down. There's nothing. I can't say that's enough. Well, I can. We don't know.
Right.
The moment we start believing we know where it's going to go, I don't know about you, but I've seen it 1,000 times. I've done it myself when that's why I bring up this coiling. We could just explode to new highs and keep going. Why? And this isn't, I'm not being smarmy here, because there's more bids than offers. I mean,
Right.
when you really more people willing to buy it than sell it. But it could explode and then come. We don't know, but that's why I like taking one side. It's above the 200. I'm only looking to buy. Doesn't mean I'm gonna. I get spooked out too. I
Same.
didn't today, but you know what? I was cringing. I'm like, oh,
Right.
oh, and I didn't feel any better when it came right back. But that is part of trading. If you're not feeling some kind of cringe, tightening of the lower regions, you're
Maybe
you're
not human.
motionless.
Maybe
Yeah,
not
you're not
human.
human.
Right.
By the way, there's other ways. But hey, all I know is that you need to take risk, define it. If you don't, if you can't, number one, can't afford it. By the way, that house account can afford that risk.
100%.
It
Otherwise, it
can
would not be
look at
taking
the
it.
number and go, my God,
Dakota called it
there's
sticker shock. Sticker shock, where the chat's like, "Oh my god, you lost 50K," and it is a big number. Not gonna, but there's someone who lost $5 million today, and they're looking at that as, hey, that was just a loss. So it's all relative. It all matters. It's the size of the account. Um, and if you're looking at a 50K loss and saying, "Wow, that's a whole lot of money. I can't take that in my personal," then what that's telling you is you're not ready to trade that kind of size in your account, which is fine. I'm not willing to take a $50,000 loss in my personal account. No way. But that account can do that. Uh, so it's percentage based.
it's percentage based, and that's a great point, and it's a great way to start thinking. If you're a new trader, think in percentages. High, you've heard me talk about it. What is the number one priority?
Hmm. Risk
Is to
management,
keep the account alive. Risk management.
capital
You hear me
preservation.
say it's not a number. To me, it's a percentage of account. To me,
Hmm.
my experience, 12%. Some people think that's too tight. I like to do it that way because I've blown out accounts.
Hmm.
Believe me.
Same.
And you get to a point, and it's sickening.
Like, what am I
If
doing here? So, coach, this what you're saying right now. We have a comment in the chat from Robbie. Says, "Coach, can you please be honest whether a retail trader can make this a career? I've lost over $27,000 on Top Step. Maybe it's time you should learn the skill, and after doing that, I will be able to make wealth. Please be honest." What do you say to that? Can a retail trader actually be successful at this? And I know your answer, and I know what your answer is going to require as well. But go ahead, coach.
Yes, yes, you can.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a mindset, because why I do this, I have had gone through the emotional. I mean, I understand raising children, trading,
Hmm.
losing money, chasing losses, and you can do it. But the number one skill is risk management, keeping the account alive. And initially, when I first started, it was crazy. I mean, when I first started, it was 1980. I was 18 years old. I saw guys in the 1980 money making millions in the
Yeah.
silver market, gold
Well,
market, soybean market. It was like all I could think of was, this is it. I'll get the Lambo when I'm my 21st birthday and a house in the dreams. It had nothing to do with risk management. So just if you're going to do this, you're going to have to give yourself more time than you think. If it's going to take a couple years.
yeah, I
And
agree. I agree with you. What I would say is losses happen, right? Everyone has a story of how much that loss is in their own story, right? Everyone's different. Mine is over 100K. Before I decided that, hey, I'm going to start actually learning what the hell is going on instead of just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. So if you do want to get to a point where you're going on the road to being successful at this, you have to be extremely honest with yourself because there's no floor in that hole. Robbie, I'm being completely honest with you. There is no floor in that hole. It can just keep going. So in the $27,000 loss, I'm going to ask you to think about what you've learned in this process for yourself that you can change. And then that tells me whether or not you can actually be successful at this. If you say, hey, there's nothing wrong with me and I'm just going to keep throwing money at a problem and doing what I've been doing, the answer might be no. There's a percentage of people that never see success in this. But tell me what you've learned from the process first, and then tell me whether or not you're willing to change what you need to. And there's still no guarantee, but at least you can then take the steps to getting towards that success, right? There's no guarantees because we don't know whether or not the next trade we're going to put on is going to be a winner or a loser, right? But like Coach Paul is saying, risk management is extremely important. So tell me what you've learned from this process and you're willing to change because yes, there is somewhat of a and it's going to be different for everyone, but there are steps that you can take to be successful. But you have to be willing to be honest with yourself.
amen. Again, amen. Truly. And and this is not easy. Like I said, that's why, and I'll go back. Number one is, on any given day, don't lose 12 to 15%. You got to stop. And if you can't do that, it's going to be almost impossible. Because, by the way, those days come and they don't, if they come, it's part of the game. Go look through the market wizards.
Hmm.
Um, Renaissance Capital, Jim Simon. It took him over 10 years. He's the most successful ever.
Right.
The guy, check him out. It took him over 10 years.
The markets didn't change, and if they did, there wasn't the reason he found success. It's not, oh, all of a sudden the markets are doing exactly what I expected to, so now I can make billions of dollars. That wasn't it.
Actually, my biggest losses came after my biggest success.
Same.
And that's another one, the things that you go through. Like I was infallible. And I didn't pay attention to the bottom line. And that was worse than the first couple losses. That's when I said no. That's the end of it. It's 12%. When you can do that and you get better, you can survive the drawdown.
Yep.
So that's that's the reality here. And by the way, I'll throw in a plug for Topstep. The reason why I'm here, you can do this and not risk the rent.
Right.
Uh, you can do this and learn. This was not available until what, 12 years ago. Happy birthday. Was it 12 years ago?
Right.
Otherwise, I was a retail broker. I saw a lot of pain. People losing. Literally, I had people lose a couple $1 million in 2 years. They had to sell their houses and their cars, and get a job. That's painful. You can do this. You can get the requisite skills and not have to worry about paying the rent because that's pressure.
Right.
That's pressure. You can't make good decisions.
100%. We got some good comments coming in here. And Robbie, just to your last point, what skills can I focus on? Focus on uh, staying in control under emotions when you have waves in your emotions and managing your risk. Um, if I'm just going to guess, and again, I've been where you're at, uh, you start to make emotional decisions when things don't go your way. You have to figure out how to mitigate your decision making when you're not operating under your best interest, right? So if you take a loss and then you're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to throw on 15 lots because that's what needs to happen. That's the decision that you need to get away from. Find out how to do that. I've told traders before, if you find yourself making that decision, let the mouse go, lay down on the floor under your desk, and just watch the markets instead of making a decision. It sounds crazy, but so does losing money because you can't control your emotions.
And then I right now I would go learn the average true range in your time frame. Risk two. Start there.
Yep.
Accept that or don't take the trade. One last thing is don't trade to make money.
Yep. Trade a process.
Trade to trade right. You don't have to be right. You just have to trade right. And it sounds so easy, and
Yeah.
it is. It, but once you do that and you get comfortable, and all of a sudden you're comfortable, and you had a losing day, fuck, I trade really well. Excuse me, up
Yeah.
$5. Yeah, damn, I traded really well,
Hmm.
and I lost. Then you've turned the corner,
Absolutely.
and that sounds crazy, right? When's the first person that told me there was a group, very famous group on the Florida Board of Trade, and they did very well. And they were mentored by an old trader, and their mantra was "Love your losers." When I first heard that, I go, "Yeah, right, Jag. Here's my losers. Love them. I don't love them," and I didn't understand what that meant.
Hmm.
Was like when you remove the stigma of that losing money that is something that
Is a bad thing.
is a bad character.
Right.
Now losing money well is the key, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, we got one more question to come in here. We are almost at the hour. We didn't focus on crude oil at all, but I think this is great conversation and doesn't matter what market you're trading. If you can't do some of the things that we're talking about, you're going to have a hard time. So, one last question coming in from Bradley. Any thoughts on how to stop yourself from over trading? Typically make a few good trades per day and 6 or 7 trades where I'm just chasing moves. Thanks in advance for your thoughts. Want me to take that one, coach? So, Bradley, for
Yeah,
me, I had that problem a lot. It's knowing where. So, I'm a volume trader, right? I'm going to go over to the Nasdaq, and I'm a volume trader. For me, it's knowing when this is going to happen. We see high volume here, low volume here. When I did a review, any trade that I took in here, some of them were winners, some of them were losers. But if I had to have a percentage, it was maybe 49-51, not in my favor, right? And the results and that's win loss. The wins were always way smaller than the losses. Why? Because I'm not a good range bound trader. What happens when volume drops? Ranges contract. So I'm trading during a time where I'm not even giving myself a chance. So all the trades that I took in the morning were really good. I'm on a streak. I'm hitting 2, 3 trades in a row. I want to keep going, right? Because feed the hot hand. Uh, different game here, right? So identify the game that you can play, where your trades, where your best trades are, and find the market conditions that present that. Otherwise, you're like you said, trying to chase moves, and then pay attention to that mental capital, right? Truly ask yourself, am I making the best decisions for my trading. And that doesn't mean, is this trade going to be a winner? Is this trade based on something that I've done repeatedly, hundreds of thousands of times? Then I can live with the results. If not, and I'm just clicking a button, I don't. Regardless of the result, we don't feel comfortable with it, right? Whether it's a win, that's negative reinforcement, and if it's a loss, then you're frustrated. But what would you say to that, Coach?
I agree with you. When you talk about controlling losses and keeping that, also the other side of the coin, you've heard this all the time, is fear and greed. If you're chasing trades and you're up already and you just want to make more money, you're not trading a program. That's greed. That's another thing that I wrestle with. Fuck. One other, the act of over trading could be like, okay, I'm going to put a 5 lot on now because I like the trade. But when you were a 2 lot or a 1 lot trader, now it is 5. That's another one where over trading can happen. If you, I would do this if that happens a lot, and you've been killing days where you were up because you were over traded. Have a, you know, have an upside that you stop trading.
Hmm.
I really mean that. I'm
Yeah,
like, I made $1,200 done because it goes back to this not respecting the money
right.
because and as traders we do that. Um,
Absolutely.
go and I would the last thing I would say because we're almost running is it goes back to managing the account. If you have let's say let's just go a $50,000 combine and you built it to you've made $2,000, $3,000. Now your account is $5,000. You double it, you can start doubling your size. But if
Hmm.
you just want to get over that hump and you start over trading because you want to get more money, you need to recognize that because that isn't not you're not managing your risk.
Nope, not at all.
And I'll tell you, man, maybe I'll do this. I'm gonna really think this out. Be a good poker player.
There you go.
A good poker player, it's very similar to trading. It's managing your managing your risk. It's managing your how much you're willing to lose because it's all as more information comes, you can make better decisions because there's always that uncertainty. What happens in poker is like the emotion gets over and you want that pot and all you can think of and then I'm all in just because you want to win that pot, but
Yep.
your cards are not giving you that opportunity.
Well,
So
process goes out the window.
yeah, focus on hey, if I'm up 1,200, I don't know the size of your account, but if you're up something, it's boom, I'm done. And when I say done, I'm not just going to walk away, turn off the computer,
Go
turn on
outside.
Top Step, view us, hit the like button, everyone,
Make sure you do that.
and do that. But that's any trader tells you that's the other side of fear and greed.
I got nothing else to say. I think this was a great session. We didn't get to the four markets. Lido put the pie down. Thank you, Coach, as always, for another great segment. Remember, everyone, we did have Brian Shannon on today during Topstep TV, 1 p.m. Central Time. So if you want to go back and watch that, I'm sure the team is going to clip that out and make it its own video. Brian Shannon wrote the book on Anchored VWAP. I want to thank him a lot for writing that book because it helps me so much in my trading and just what I was already doing. So make sure you check that out. Also, if you want to pass your Top Step Combine on Topstep TV, put the link in the chat for you there. Make sure you go ahead and fill that out. Make sure you fill out what's there. And the team doesn't want someone who's 99 cents away from passing a combine. Let's make it entertaining TV if you want to get on there. And then last but not least, our Discord, Top Step Discord. I'm going to put the link for the chat in there as well. I highly suggest joining there. I'm not in there as much, just being kind of busy, but Shameless plug for the Coach J room. Love talking to the traders in there. Really nice community. But we have coaches doing classes there as well. Coach Ray, Coach Vince doing classes every day, uh, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 7 Central. And then we have Coach Hoop as well, doing the fundamental forum Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, at right after this session is over, right? So, ton of education for you, hopefully to help you in your trading journey. All of us as coaches here are doing this because we want to help someone on their journey, maybe expedite the process a little bit for you. But understand that it's up to you. We talk about that success stuff. I can tell you everything I want. It's up to you to make a decision to say that, hey, I want to do this thing. So hit that like button for us. I got nothing else. Coach Paul, great stuff as always.
Great
Got anything
job,
before we go?
Coach Jay. Join us again. We've been doing this about a year. We continue to do it and help you on your journey because we've been down these paths.
Yep. Still on them. Always a learning process. Always a learning process. Uh, and risk management, coach. You could be doing this for 50 years. It still matters, right? You could be
It's the
trading a
number
billion
one.
dollar account. It's still going to matter.
As you can see, boy, this is people have lost $1 billion.
Didn't manage their risk.
Didn't manage their risk. Whether you're on a $50,000 combine with 2,000 or $1 billion, it's managing risk.
100%.
That's what we do. So
Thank you, everyone, for joining. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Trade well, manage your risk, and we'll see you next time.